Hello everyone, my name is Sindicate. I do Neurofunk Drum and Bass music, and today I want to show you my way of sidechaining using a compressor, a Volumeshaper, and an oscilloscope to see visually the effect of the sidechain. Now, first of all, I have a tune in here I produced, and it's already finished but not released anywhere yet, so I will take this as an example. So as you can see, I have four main groups, which are drums, bass, synth, and effects. And yeah, let's just listen to a tiny bit of the drop and see how it sounds. So first, I want to talk about the oscilloscope I'm using. I use PSYSCOPE, which is free, but there's also a paid version of this, but for my purpose, the free version is totally fine. And in Ableton, it's a little bit complicated how to route this, but I'm not going to show you now how to route this. There are enough tutorials out there. All I want to show you is that there are four different tracks, audio tracks here, which all have an instance of PSYSCOPE, and I called them 0, 1, 2, 3. Just as here in PSYSCOPE there are four channels, 0, 1, 2, 3. And I assigned 0 to the drums, bass to the 1, synth to 2, and FX to 3. So basically I can press here 0 and see the drums. I can press 1, I see the bass. 2, I see some synth. And 3 FX, which is not playing in this part. I'll play to you. And the cool thing is that you can either watch them as separate layers or as a sum, and then you can just see how they add up together, and that's really cool and very powerful of this oscilloscope. So this is the group. This is the group where there's another instance of PSYSCOPE, and this is the instance we are using in the end. So yeah, let's just watch the bass at first, which has sidechain. As you can see, all the gaps are sidechain, which is here. I'm using Shaperbox Pro C for kick and for snare, and Shaperbox as well for the kick. But I'm gonna explain that later. Let's see how everything sounds only with a bass. Yeah, so I'm going to turn off the sidechain now and recreate the sidechain by scratch. So as you can see, there are no gaps anymore. Okay, so when I play the drums and the bass together, let's watch them as layers, then you can clearly see this is the kick, this is the snare kick. When I look at them as layers, they're totally playing at the same time, and when I sum them up, you just can see this is 0 dB line, and they add up together, which causing the final limiter to just need to limit more. And this is not what we want to get a loud mix. So we want the bass to be sidechained to the kick and to the snare to avoid this and let the limiter do less work. So as you can see, when I activate the sidechain again, now you can clearly see that when the kick and the snare hit, then bass gets ducked away. And when I look at the sum, it's very, very good transition between those, so there's no gaps or adding too much. So yeah, let's try to recreate something like this again, with probably first with just the compressor, the normal Ableton compressor. So I have to show you, I use sidechain triggers. First of all, I have a small instrument rack in here, and I will show you the first layer, which is just a small, this is a hi-hat sample, and I'm just taking a tiny bit of this. So when I put this on external out, then you can hear this is just very short sound. This is only to trigger the kick drum, to have a very short and precise sidechain. So this is sense only, so we don't have the click noise in our overall mix. So let's go back to the bass group. Oh yeah, and I can use MIDI notes here to trigger this sound. So that's also cool. You can just copy over MIDI tricks. Yeah, so let's activate the sidechain and select sidechain kick, and EQ we don't need. So let's make some settings. So I want infinite ratio. First of all, I want very fast attack, very fast release. The knee I put to 0, which is hard knee. And yeah, let's just start compressing. Now, as you can see, this is way too much of the bass gets compressed. Let's put the envelope not on logarithmic but on linear. This makes it much faster, which is what we want. We want to control it. So at the moment I have threshold on -infinity. Let's play with the release. Okay, let's see how it looks in the sum. Perfect. It's not peaking too much. This is about right. Also here. So, okay, now we have a good transition between kick and bass. And now the kick can come through nicely. And yeah, now I want to show you another technique. Instead of the compressor, I like to use Shaperbox. Volumeshaper of Shaperbox. So first, before I use this, I want to show you how to trigger it. Set that to MIDI trigger, and in the sidechain rack, I have external instruments. Let me just make a new one. Sorry, everything is in German. Sorry for that, but yeah, let's put an external instrument in here, and yeah, set this to bass, and to shape the last Shaperbox, which is the last effect I put on Shaperbox. Now this Shaperbox should be triggered by it. Yeah, so now we have to set the length, put this on quarter length, Get rid of this, get rid of this. Okay, so now we gotta look at the oscilloscope again. And draw the curve. I like to draw it like this. Now this looks quite good. Perfect. So now it sums up quite well. But there's one thing. Now, okay. What is the advantage of Shaperbox compared to the compressor? Now, of course, we can shape the ducking effect just as we need it. We can really make this perfect sidechain. But also now I can split the bands in here. So if I want only the lows, which is here now about 500 Hertz, as you can see, I can let through higher frequencies, and they don't have that much energy to sum up and make high peaks. So I can put this up to taste. And now I don't have this big effect of ducking, this pumping effect. And if I want, I can just draw another curve in here. Making this much shorter, and now I have the beginning of the kick quite empty, and then the noise starts before the low end. That's quite good, but there's one thing with this sidechain. As you can see in here, sometimes the transient is not free and it sums up. In this case, it's not critical. It doesn't sum up much, but sometimes you have high peaks in there. And in this case, I'm still using a compressor. Let's take another compressor for this. So again, sidechain, kick, no, sidechain, kick. All right. Threshold to -infinity. Okay, now we take a look ahead, and when I set my attack time to 1 millisecond as well, this will have this effect. Let me put a new audio track in here and draw a curve. So if we think this is the compressor now, and we have an attack time of, I don't know, this case 1 millisecond. Let's say this is 1 millisecond. Then the compressor at 0 starts compressing, and it takes 1 millisecond to fully compress. So when we have look ahead also set to 1 milliseconds, it's gonna get shifted to the left. So when the kick hits on the 1 on time 0, the compressor is already fully compressing. And that is what we want. So in this case, I set the attack and the lookahead to the same amount, and when we check the Oscilloscope, now it's getting compressed before the transient. Yeah, now we of course want to do the same for the snare, and to do this I will just copy the compressor in here, set the sidechain to sidechain snare, which is the same trigger but in another channel, another MIDI notes. So I will take this now, only compressing it with the compressor. Let's see. I gotta play with the release again. Let's take it like this. Yeah, this looks quite good and works fine. So the only peaks appearing in this are peaks because of the percussive elements, which I don't want to sidechain in this case. I only want the kick and the snare to be sidechained to punch through, and the rest, yeah, the rest will get limited by the final limiter. So thank you for watching and listening. I hope this is helpful for you, and yeah, setting up the sidechain with PSYSCOPE and making it really perfect was a big thing in my production, and made it much better. So in order to get a loud mix in the end, this is quite an important step. Yeah. See you soon.